Hello everybody.
Me again.
Things that have been going on lately. I saw my autism support worker she came down to see me last week, and we discussed what had happened as a result of my assessment, and we discuss possible avenues of appeal, ways of approaching it. Now, my research into it has led me to believe that, of course, when you request an appeal, they first do a mandatory reconsideration. I think that's what it's called, mandatory reconsideration, where someone else who works at the DWP looks at it, as I've said before, and it's not likely that will result in an overturned decision, because they don't take in any new facts. They just look at the decision and make a judgment to see if they consider the results of the assessment to be correct, and they probably will. But I've read that the only way that you can really get a mandatory reconsideration to overturn a decision is if you can prove that the basis of that decision was factually incorrect. Like the person who assessed you, didn't know something, did something wrong, etc. So we talked about that. I emailed her a copy of the full report so that she could look it over and let me know if there were things that stood out to her that could be deemed factually incorrect, that I could report to the DWP when I make my request for the mandatory reconsideration. And she got back to me yesterday, and based on her advice, I typed up a letter that I'm gonna be posting off to them, the DWP, soon. So I just wanted to read it while I was here, so that could let you guys know what was going on. You get the general gist of things. Dear Sir or Madam, I am writing to request an appeal into the decision to deny me employment support allowance, as mentioned when I telephoned to ask for the full report to be sent to me. I do not believe that the woman who assessed me was aware of the full implications of my condition, autism spectrum disorder, and therefore did not take them into account when making her report. Upon studying the paperwork I received, which detailed the assessment process, I discovered that I had been scored 0 in several sections that have a noticeable debilitating effect on my life and ability to work. Autism is a lifelong disability that affects each person differently. I have learned to cope to a certain extent with the world, modifying my behaviours to appear more normal. I put normal in inverted commas. When in social and formal situations, such as interviews. This may appear to make me seem more capable and independent than I actually am, as I am only able to maintain this front for limited periods of time, not long enough for me to secure long-term employment. For example, The woman noted in my report that I kept good eye contact with her throughout the interview. However, eye contact is something that I and many other people with autism struggle to, and in some cases cannot do. I mimic eye contact by looking at another part of the person's face, which gives the impression that I am able to do it when in fact I cannot. Doing so makes me feel very uncomfortable, and I cannot do it for more than a few seconds. A section that I take particular issue with me being scored 0 on is Activity 17, appropriateness of behaviour with other people due to cognitive impairment or mental disorder. Autism is a cognitive long-term impairment. It renders me unable to function in an acceptable or normal way for periods of time without considerable effort on my part. Effort... Come on, flip the page. Come on. How embarrassing. Why are you not turning the page? You didn't have a problem last time. There. Effort that is mentally draining and stressful. Issues with appropriateness of behaviour is one of the core traits of autism/Asperger's/autism spectrum disorder. Scoring me 0 on this section betrays a lack of understanding of my disability on your part, and therefore makes me question the validity and accuracy of this entire report. There is no doubt in my mind that there are many people in a similar situation to myself who are failing these assessments due to a lack of understanding of their conditions on the part of the person assessing them, coupled with their inability to confidently and coherently explain their difficulties and symptoms. I understand that before my request for an appeal can be granted, it needs to go for a mandatory reassessment. I hope that what I have written helps convince you that the result of this assessment is inappropriate and should be overturned. I am more than willing to provide any information that you require, and also put you in touch with an expert at Buckinghamshire County Council who will be able to explain this to you in more detail. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Yours faithfully, Chris Langridge. That's the general crux of the issue is that I scored 0 on a lot of these sections, and it's very bright out there. Yeah, and these things cause a lot of problems for me personally, and anybody who suffers from Asperger's or any kind of autism related disorder. So I'm hoping to get them on the fact that the woman who assessed me knew so little about my condition that she says that I don't have problems that are common to everybody with my condition. So, my mother's printing that off for me at work because we don't have a working printer, so I'll have it probably in the post this afternoon or tomorrow. Because, I really do not want to go to an appeals tribunal, but I might have to. Excuse me, I'm just going to move the car because this is ridiculous. I don't want a halo. I'm not an angel. Much better. So yeah, hopefully it won't take them too long to get back to me, and hopefully I'll get a positive result out of that. Because the whole appeals tribunal thing seems a bit daunting. Yeah, but I mean, if I have to go to the appeals tribunal, the support worker said that she would go with me and help me out and advocate for me. So it shouldn't be too bad. Anyway, it's start of December now, so everything's coming up to Christmas. What is the date today? The 4th. So yeah, 21 days until Christmas. I used to be really big on Christmas, you know, when I was much younger, but it's like, you know, as with everything, you know, even birthdays, sort of like, it loses its lustre after a while. And of course these days, you know, I don't get presents much anymore. You know, I just ask for money because most of the stuff that I want people can't get for me. So, you know, be it Steam games or computer parts or something, so it's usually just best to ask money and get it myself. And something that I've had a habit of doing recently, well, in the last few years anyway, is finding things I want, buying them in advance, and saying I'll take that out of my Christmas money or my birthday money or whatever. So the day itself, you know, there isn't anything particularly interesting about it. Now, one thing I have gotten, which was sent to me by one of my friends, was this. Now, I don't know if you can read that or not, but that's quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, and he was the communist leader of China for several decades. Now, I'm not a communist. I do not subscribe to you know, communist ideals or you know, the whole ethos of that stuff. Yeah, my friend is Chinese, and she knows that I like politics and history and stuff, so she thought that she'd get this for me as sort of a joke gift. But you know, it is interesting from a historical perspective. Yeah, you open it up and the first page says in red, "Workers of all countries unite." And this is a first edition printed in 1966 with the official English translation that came out of the Chinese government. I don't think she spent a lot of money on this, because this is the most printed book in history, with, you know, estimates ranging, you know, to 6.5 billion at the top end, because, you know, every Chinese citizen was required to have at least one copy of them, you know, carry it with them at all times so that they could read it and stuff. So yeah, there's lots of these things floating around, and I do believe this is actually a genuine first edition, because I did do a bit of research into it, and even though it says first edition in the front, it's not a real first edition unless there's Chinese publication information on the back page, like there is here. Yeah, it's a nice little surprise. I've got a photo of Chairman Mao. What I find amusing is his name, Mao, is the Chinese word for cat, so he's Chairman Cat. Yeah, I mean, I have read a little bit of this. If I 16 pages in, and these are just like usually things that he's said at speeches, or written down, or something like that. I mean, yeah, I mean, there are some fairly communistical things in here, but some of it is just basic good governance. Just find a particular passage. Okay. It is an arduous task to ensure a better life for the several 100 million people of China, and to build an economically and culturally backwards country into a prosperous and powerful one with a high level of culture. And it is precisely in order to be able to shoulder this task more competently and work better together with all non-party people who are actuated by high ideals and determined to institute reforms that we must conduct rectification movements both now and in the future, and constantly rid ourselves of whatever is wrong. That's a little bit more idealistic, but the next section is more about government. Policy is the starting point of all of the practical actions of a revolutionary party, and manifests itself in the process and the end result of that party's action. A revolutionary party is carrying out a policy wherever it takes any action. If it is not carrying out a correct policy, it is carrying out a wrong policy. If it is not carrying out a given policy consciously, it is doing so blindly. What we call experience is the process and the end result of carrying out a policy. Only through the practice of the people, that is, through experience, can we verify whether or not a policy is correct or wrong, and determine to what extent it is correct or wrong. But people's practice, especially the practice of a revolutionary party and the revolutionary masses, cannot but be bound up with one policy or another. Therefore, before any action is taken, we must explain the policy which we have formulated in the light of the given circumstances to party members and to the masses. Otherwise, party members and the masses will depart from the guidance of our policy, act blindly, and carry out a wrong policy. And that's on the policy concerning industry and commerce, February 27th, 1948. And I mean, to be honest, that's just basic good governance that any, political party should follow, regardless of where they fall on the political spectrum, be they communists or fascists or capitalists or whatever. Right. Reading, what little I have of it so far, I get the general sense that they wanted to do good by the people, but it's from what I know about the things that happened in China during Mao's tenure as chairman of the party, it didn't quite work out. During the Great Famine, more people died then over a period of 10 years than live in my country now. 75 million people died as a result of Chairman Mao's policies. So, yeah, while we mustn't forget that they did a lot of terrible things in the name of communism, I still think that, as with the Nazis to some extent, some of their policies can be appreciated based on the, not necessarily the mantra, but the sort of ideal behind it. Like, we want to do this because we want to better the lives of our people, and in a lot of cases they did. I mean, in a period of 20 years, China underwent rapid industrialization and catapulted itself to becoming the world's newest superpower as a result of the teachings of this book. So it can't be all bad if they had that kind of success with it. But then again, like I said, you can't forget the tens of millions that died as a result of the misguided policies of Mao and the party. I mean, it's like, the Nazis in Germany, they took a country that was in the midst of economic ruin, rampant hyperinflation, massive war debt on their shoulders, and in 10 years they turned it into the powerhouse of Europe that was capable of waging total war, and, without inconveniencing their citizens too much. It's like, I remember when I was studying history, I was being taught that Germany built separate, dedicated munitions factories, plane factories, tank factories, etc. Whereas in Britain and France and so on, they were using existing factories that should have been making, in the case of the Hurricanes and the Spitfires, those factories used to make pots and pans, cars, mechanical machinery, and as a result of that, because the industry was hijacked to contribute to the war effort, there was extensive rationing, and people were going hungry and shit. The Germans never went through any of that, unless of course you were Jewish or homosexual or a gypsy or a political dissident. The average German didn't suffer under rationing. So they, the Nazis had obviously done something right with the infrastructure of their country before the war started. So there's definitely something. I think that a lot of people are too quick to dismiss things that the Nazis, the Soviets, and the Chinese did in terms of policy, because it's just like, oh, they're evil bastards, and if you agree with any of their policies, regardless of how far removed they were from the evil things they did, you are an evil, nasty, Nazi supporting fascist. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. A lot of the stuff that the Nazis did prior to the war was very sound economic policy, and that's demonstrated by the fact that they took a country that was in ruins, and in 10 years they were able to wage a worldwide war. So not absolutely everything they did was, evil and useless and should not be. I hesitate to use the word respected when it comes to the Nazis, but to be honest, if you're only talking about their economic policies, then yeah, those I think should be respected. And I would not appreciate being called a Nazi fascist just for saying that they did a good job rebuilding the German economy. That's just a fact. And the same thing could be said for China with its rapid industrialization, birth of technology industries and so on. I mean, they were, when... I don't think I would quite say when the communists came to power, because there had been a Republican government for a while before the communists got in. It wasn't an immediate transition from imperial rule to communism. But they were practically a feudal society, agriculture being the main industry, for want of a better term. And really, their economy was tiny in the grand scheme of things, and, in a ridiculously short amount of time, you've got a nation that's verging on superpower status. Yeah. So I suppose the problem with such rapid industrialization, economic expansion, and social upheaval is you know, that some people suffer as a result of it, which would be, you know, the famine that killed 75 million people. I mean, even the Chinese understood to some extent that what, you know, that everything Mao did was wonderful. I mean, after he died, there was a sort of shifting away from his traditional policies, and in a sense, he almost sort of became persona non grata, in the same way that Stalin did after he died in the Soviet Union. It's like there was a period of enlightenment when they decided, you know, when they actually, you know, seriously, critically looked at Mao in the same way that the Soviets looked at Stalin, and said, yeah, you know, we got to admit now that not everything he did was great, so we'll just brush that under the rug and, you know, try and do a bit better now. And, you know, they have, to some extent. I mean, it's still not great over there. I mean, there are still parts of China that are still seen almost no industrialization at all. You know, I mean, the farmers are exploited, and the Chinese government generally, in some cases, just doesn't care particularly about the welfare of its citizens. I mean, there was the Three Gorges Dam project that they wanted, you know, to that would, you know, generate hydroelectricity for large swathes of the country, and so on and so forth. But that required flooding thousands upon thousands of square miles of land that people lived on. You know, there were temples there, ancient monuments, and so on and so forth. And the Chinese went, yeah, we're ploughing ahead. You know, we don't care about that. So, you know, they still have their faults, but they're nowhere near as bad as they were in the past. And then, you know, you go ever further east, and you've got North Korea, which, you know, to be honest, they're not even really communist, because, you know, they're more despots than communists there. I mean, I would say that they're communists in name and theory, but in practice it's a despotic dictatorship, and, you know, hereditary dictatorship. You know, all this horrible shit about purges and you know, just hundreds and something thousands of citizens being rounded up and putting in sports arenas and then executed by machine gun fire. Because, you know, the majority of the population doesn't even know any of this has happened because it's not reported on the news. You know, you've got the, you know, border on concentration camps, you know, hard labour camps where people die in their millions, and the average person in Korea, you know, the people that the government likes have no clue about it. And I really don't get this. I don't understand why the UN doesn't act on this, because we know it's going on. We've got proof it's going on. We've got aerial photographs of these camps. We've got stories from people who have, you know, seen what goes on there, and so on and but all they do is they increase sanctions. It's, you know, it's like, well, we'll try to convince them of the error of their ways, but Kim Jong-un doesn't care. So, you know, it doesn't matter if, you know, they increase economic and trade sanctions on his country. He still lives in the lap of luxury, you know, smoking, you know, 5 packs of cigarettes a day, banqueting, you know, drinking fine wines and buying, you know, valuable antiques and so on and so forth. So, you know, he doesn't give a shit. The party doesn't give a shit. So that's not really going to dissuade them or deter them from, doing what they're doing. I mean, realistically, someone needs to go in and take them down, but the problem is that I think they're just too scared, because, the North is developing nukes. We don't know what the capabilities of the nukes are. I mean, they've tested short-range nukes that can reach Japan, but for all we know, that could just be posturing so that the West thinks that that's the limit of their capabilities, when they could have been developing intermediate range intercontinental ballistic missiles in secret. So if anybody wants proof that nuclear weapons act as a deterrent, and a viable deterrent, just look at North Korea. If they didn't have nukes, they would have been steamrolled years ago. And something definitely needs to be done about the North. There's a whole lot of ridiculous shit that goes on up there that is frankly unacceptable. I mean, hell, North Korea makes Islamic State look like wannabe fascists, to be honest. The stuff that they do pales in comparison to what the North Korean government does. I think North Korea has one of the largest armies in the world. I think it's like 9 million men in active service and several million more in reserve. So if anybody actually wanted to try and take them on, it would be a pretty bitter fight. Hell, the United States doesn't even have enough troops to take them on. They'd need the full backing of China to be able to do that. And I don't see China and the United States cooperating militarily anytime soon. So it looks like that the Kims will be in power in Pyongyang for the foreseeable future. The South's doing all right, though. They've got their problems. There were some protests recently because the government's changing school textbooks to sort of, I wouldn't necessarily say erase, but minimise a few things in history, like one of the things that they've changed is that the school textbooks no longer say that Korea was a colony of Japan during the Second World War. It was, though. Japan invaded and conquered them and administered them as a province, so they were a colony. Yeah, I mean, they do have all sorts of scandals and stuff. I mean, some of them are frankly ridiculous. Yes, but miles better than the North. I mean, imagine one day, whichever Kim is in power at the time will completely fall off his rocker and start firing missiles at Seoul, and when that happens, the whole world is gonna look and think, why didn't we stop them sooner? I mean, we really should be doing something now about it, but they're just too damn scared of Kim Jong-un dropping his nukes. As well, I mean, we don't know their full capabilities. I mean, what they've been demonstrating could be the limit of their capabilities, but They, like I said, they could have intermediate range intercontinental ballistic missiles stashed away somewhere. And yeah, definitely, they're going to be a problem in the future. Islamic State is the other problems in the Middle East is this generation's problem. You know, the generation that's currently in power. I think that North Korea and possibly China are going to be my generation's problem in the next few decades when we become the generation in power, if you like. Things that are going on over there will come to a head and this shit will hit the fan. I hope I don't live to see nuclear conflict, I really do. You know, they start dropping missiles at them. I'm just gonna sit there watching the mushroom clouds rise and think, you fools! There is no need to resort to that. But then again, some of the people who have nukes are absolutely batshit insane. Like, Christ, can you imagine if Islamic State got hold of a few nukes? They'd probably bomb Israel into oblivion. Or they'd launch it at the United States. And it depends on the range of the missile. You know, they might be so completely stupid that they might try to launch it at the States, but it runs out of fuel and crashes harmlessly into the Atlantic or the Pacific or whatever. But yeah, Israel would definitely be on their list, as would America. But then again, they might just launch them at Europe as well. I mean, it will definitely get to Europe. Christ almighty. Yeah. I'm not sure how long I've been doing this video because I had to stop in the middle of it. I think it was 18 minutes for the first one, maybe. Now this is on 30, so I should probably stop. Anyway, be seeing you.